Hello, welcome to the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. I am your host, Roy Kessel, and today we are very excited to have with us special guest Rob Weissman. Rob is with the Boston Renegades and their nonprofit, the Association of Blind Citizens, and really excited to have you with us on the show today, Rob. So thank you for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, Roy, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We know there's so much to talk about the incredible work that you are doing. But I want to back up to when Rob was a little boy. All of us developed a passion for sports at different ages and stages. Tell us about your first memory and what you first remember about loving the sports.
Well, I grew up in a dead end circle, and we pretty much played sports all day long, every day, everything we were doing. So we would set up that dead end circle, and when we were little, we would have t-ball. We put a tee out there and run around the street. I have a vivid memory of my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, sliding into second base, but that was on the cement and ripping his whole leg up. But then we just got out and did it the next day. So, it was just, kids being kids in the 1980s, 1970s. And really it brought the whole neighborhood together. Gave us something to do for the summer, and we bonded over it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that's the thing, right? One of the things that's missing in today's world, often in sports, the complaint we hear is that sports are overstructured, right? When we were young and playing, right? You talk about playing in the circle. I'm assuming you probably had a lot of ghost runners running the bases and some great arguments about whether the ghost runner was out at third or made it on a hit. That was part of the fun of the energy and the passion. So take us through a little bit about, like, as your sports life developed and, sports you played growing up and through high school.
Yeah, so baseball is my first love. When I got to high school, I tried hard to make the high school team, and I failed. So one of the things I tried to do to make the team was start running track. Figured if I could get faster, that might be an advantage for me. Never really worked out. So I ended up being a running track, doing the 400, throwing the javelin. My ability to throw a baseball really translated to the javelin. So I ended up being one of the better javelin throwers in the league. Played baseball during the summers, and pretty much when I got to college, I played anything I could. From an intramural sports perspective, and then after college, I continued to play up until about 10 years ago, and my body just started to bark at me. But I moved from that to basketball, and then from basketball to volleyball. And then during that whole journey, I was also coaching, and I decided my body had enough. Let me start just coaching full time and stop playing.
That's a hard transition to make, right? It's hard for any of us to step away and sort of admit, like, yeah, I can't do it the way I used to. I mean, we know we can't, but we still enjoy being out there, right? Whatever sports we've had that passion for. So when did you, as you went through, you stopped playing, start coaching? Take us through that progression.
Yeah, so it kind of all started in college. When I was in college, I was assigned to a floor with a bunch of disabled people just randomly. And I became great friends with many of them, and we bonded over sports. And during that bond, I remember sitting them watching the 1988 World Series with Kirk Gibson hitting the home run off Eckersley. So it would be just watching versus getting out and trying to have some fun and play, and making up rules, just like we did on the concrete in that dead end circle, just making up rules to be able to play with people with disabilities. And that parlayed into me creating a wheelchair hockey team. We played some games there in college. And then, after I got graduated, actually, I was injured. I had torn something in my ankle playing, I don't remember if it was basketball or volleyball at that point. And one of my friends reached out to me from college who's blind. And he said, Rob, there's this team that's trying to get started up in the Boston area. I also used to work for Major League Baseball for a very short period of time. I worked in the Arizona Fall League as an operations intern. Loved it. And my friend called me up and he's like, "Hey, with your knowledge of baseball, your knowledge of adaptive sports, would you be interested in checking this group out? They're looking for some help." And I went out and I said, "This timing's perfect because I'm unable to play right now. I was actually on crutches." And so I went up and I checked it out, and kind of fell in love with it. And almost 24 years later, I'm still doing it.
That's amazing. So it sounds like you had experience in a number of different sports, which is terrific to see that and to really get a feel for if you did the hockey as well as the baseball, those are really different types of sports as
Yeah.
far as you're talking about, from an adaptive sports. Talk a little bit about the hockey program.
Yeah, so one of my friends on the floor had played this previously before college and had told me about it. And he was in a wheelchair. His name's Rob Papia. And Rob was like, let's get this off the ground and let's do this. And so he came to me and kind of taught me some of the ropes about how we would do it. And then kind of my role at that point was like, all right, well, who are we going to play? My role was to actually find our opponents and then set up the whole event. So I would find the opponents, I'd set up the event, I'd get all the equipment, we'd do the marketing, and I actually played goalie for the wheelchair team because the goalies were able-bodied people, and the rest of the team would be in wheelchairs. And what we would do is some of the guys who had less mobility, maybe some of the quadriplegics, they'd play on the defense. And some of the guys with more mobility, say the paraplegics, they'd be out on offense. We play on a gym floor, and we would rent wheelchairs from a supply house, and we put able-bodied people in those wheelchairs, and we play in a gym. And there'd be lots of wheelchair collisions, because those quadriplegics, we would stick the hockey stick to the bottom of their feet because they couldn't use their hands. They're just using something to wheel around with, and they would just be the enforcers and go out and hit people. And we would have a lot of fun with it. And we would open a lot of eyes. We actually have some decent crowds come watch the games. In college, we'd get a couple hundred people that would come out to watch, which was exciting. And I remember one year we had WFAN came and helped with some of the play-by-play during the game. So it was a lot of fun. And it was great to get out there and see some of my friends who, have been disabled most of their lives, to just get out and compete and have some fun doing it. And it was a great way for us to bond.
I think people who haven't watched adaptive sports don't really understand I'll use the word violence of some of those collisions. We had an opportunity at the NFL draft last year in Detroit to watch a wheelchair football game. Okay. And the physicality of some of those collisions that were going on was enormous. So you're standing on the sidelines watching, and there's some really big impacts. And hockey's got to be the same way, because if you're talking about people that don't have the ability to hold the stick and utilize that, right? So it's really impressive to me to truly see how people adapt to whatever disability they're facing and find a way to compete, because that competitive nature is there in all of us. We want to be out there, right? It's not about the act of throwing or catching a ball or hitting a puck or a golf ball, right? We see incredible opportunities for competition. So, now your friend calls you up and says, "Hey, Rob, we need you." Talk about the evolution there and where that landed you.
Yeah, so I went up and I checked out this team, and I said to them, I let them know that I was coming in advance, and I said, look, I'm just there to watch. I just want to see what's going on. And I remember pulling in, and it was a small group of people. It was probably only, 6 blind guys out there, and, maybe 3 4-sighted people. So it was kind of small. And I remember vividly sitting there and watching this woman Dot swing. And it was clear to me that no one had ever really showed her how to swing the bat. And I watched her swing and miss probably 15 times, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I said, all right. I said, Dot, do you mind if I show you just one little thing? And she's like, please, please. And I showed her one thing, and I kid you not, the very next pitch, she hit it. And the smile from ear to ear, I couldn't believe, just the smile that she had. And she's like, oh my God, this guy knows what he's talking about. I mean, look, a broken clock can be right twice a day, right? Like, I don't remember think that anything I told her is going to be the key thing, but she got some confidence out of it, and she made contact. And I kind of, from there, watching, I knew that I could make an impact in these guys and gals' lives. And I decided to do it. And at that time, I also talked to 2 of my friends, Ron Cochran and Brian Grillo. And I said, hey, I think this could be something fun for us to do. And they both came aboard. And they're both still doing it with me today. And it was just a great way for us to kind of get things started. Now, it started small, and then ultimately it started to grow into what we've become today. And, I'm thankful for Ron and Brian because, we have very different skill sets, both on the field and off the field. And those skill sets have really helped create the culture and foundation that we've needed to keep this program alive for nearly 25 years.
Well, that's such an impressive milestone to be doing it, right? This is never easy work. People look from the outside at nonprofits and they see the quote unquote success of what's going on and what you're able to accomplish, and don't realize how many years of sweat and toil kind of go into that, to building it. And it's like any other organization or business. You're putting on a great face when you're out there with the public, when you're at the practices, at the games, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of work. Take us through the beginning when you started this. What were some of the big obstacles that you had to overcome?
Yeah, in the very beginning, it was trying to get multiple organizations to work together. That was the real challenge in the beginning. And money was always a problem. And that was really the root of all evil at the beginning that caused a lot of the problems. Initially, what we wanted to do was we wanted to have 3 teams in Massachusetts, and then kind of have play happening regionally. And then whenever we would go to the tournaments and play nationally, we would take kind of like the best of the best to go. That was kind of the initial vision, but it just didn't get off the ground because of some problems that people had with how the money was going to work and how that type of stuff was going to happen, because fundraising was so difficult initially. And that was one of the initial problems. And then, and then it just becomes, one of the biggest issues is just recruitment. In order to grow any business, to grow any nonprofit, you always have to have, especially with nonprofits and especially with ours, because we are 100% volunteer driven. Nobody draws a paycheck at all in our organization. So, people have other priorities in life, right? Whether it's family, whether it's health, whether it's employment, those things take priority. So we're constantly in need of new people to just keep things growing as people get married, as people move away, as people get more demanding jobs. Just the ability to find people who have time to dedicate to the program. And then, believe it or not, it's also not hard to find blind athletes and make them aware. And just trying to get the word out to people. And there's so many guys that have joined our team that were like, I never knew this existed. If I had known this existed, I would have been here 5 years ago. And just getting the word out to all the different people in the different regions and the different vision loss that they have has always been a challenge.
Yeah. And you talk about getting that word out, right? I think word spreads organically. But it's very challenging to be able to communicate with everybody in a way that lets them understand who would be a good fit for your program. You mentioned fundraising, always one of the big challenges, right, in any of these nonprofits, and looking for that. Um, how did you go about that? Because most people that we find that start a nonprofit the way that you did here, right, there's no fundraising system apparatus in place, right? You're really building it from scratch.
Yeah, it's evolved over the years, and so has our players. So, initially when we first started, a lot of our players didn't have um, a lot of money, so we had to do things a little differently. Where now a lot of our players are in better financial positions, but initially we were standing outside of supermarkets shaking cans. We have the opportunity in the blind world. The Lions organizations are tremendous supporters of the blind, and they were tremendous and have been continued to be tremendous supporters of us. So we had that kind of built-in help there for some extent. And then there's an awesome organization out in California called the Challenged Athletes Foundation. And the Challenged Athletes Foundation has supported many of our athletes year after year in helping them to be able to obtain some of their goals financially. So that's kind of where it started. And then, it kind of evolved, and we started to take on and do, more event type stuff, which was great because it brought people together, and it wasn't just, standing in front of a store or filling out an application, but, we would do bowl-a-thons, or one of our former coaches worked in a rock climbing gym. So we would do events, which was great because it wasn't just about fundraising, it was about recruiting. So we would be able to accomplish multiple things from a social perspective as well. And then COVID hit, and then we kind of started to get into more online stuff, which was easier to do because it didn't take the amount of planning that, say, a rock climbing event or a bowl-a-thon would take. You could set up a Super Bowl squares or something like that pretty quickly and have a quick impact without having to put a ton of work into it. And that's kind of in the direction that we've gone. But we need to find the next thing, which is we'd love to be able to try to work with corporations. And we've actually done some of that. I forgot to mention that we've always done these charity games, we call them, where we'll strap the blindfold on, kind of me putting my wheelchair hockey side on. We'll strap the blindfold on with sighted people, and we'll teach them how to play the game. And in return, they make a donation to the team. And it's a great event to have some fun, to laugh at your friends, watch them try to run with a blindfold on. And then it's also a great way for them to see the ability in the disability.
And I think that ability element is so critical because too often, right, in today's world, people focus on the disability
Yeah.
label or tag and focus on what somebody can't do, right? And if you look at each of us in our business lives, our personal lives, everything that we do, right? We sort of acknowledge people have strengths and weaknesses, but we kind of put it in a fairly narrow band, like, you don't shut off a sense completely, right? Some people have really, really good memories. We understand that. Some people's memories are not as good, and you accept that. But somebody with no memory is harder to relate to, right? So same with visual acuity or hearing or anything else that's out there. And one of the best fundraising trainers I had talked about the concept. He said, what the eyes don't see, the heart won't feel, right? So when we think about athletes that are competing, they can't see. They've never been able to see the field the way you and I might be able to see the field. But now you put a blindfold on me, I have to adjust everything about what I'm doing because my visual cues aren't there just in the snap of a finger, right? We can do that as an exercise, but my balance, my sense of direction, everything that I'm used to using as cues doesn't exist. So telling me to run to first base is very, very different. having me judge how to swing, and where to swing without being able to see, right? That's very, very different.
Yeah, it's different, and you learn quite a bit out of it. And one of the things you'd see if you ever watched us play a group of sighted people, I'd say more than half the people when they run, and our bases are 100 feet away. So what you'd watch is I'd say more than half the people will get about halfway there, and then they'll almost stop and just kind of start looking for it. But they're like halfway there, so their perception of distance and being able to hear things, it's tested, and it's amazing, and it's just funny to watch, because it's gonna, it's coming, and then it's there, and everyone's looking for something like that, and they're still 50 feet away from the base. So it's definitely
Yeah.
a learning experience, and everyone walks away with it, and it's something they'll never forget.
Well, that's great, and it's certainly something would love to explore working with you to collaborate and do some of those maybe in some other markets as well as the Boston area. I think it's an exercise that's really important for people to get a sense of the skill that these athletes have when they're participating in these sports. And so, like you said, it's really uh, an acute ability that they have developed and honed from playing the sport. So it's fantastic to hear that. So we're sitting here, as we record this. What Tell me what you see now. You've been doing this for 25 years. What do you see on the horizon in the next 2 to 3 years?
For the Renegades,
Yes.
well, we have built one of the best programs in the world, one of the longest standing programs in the world, and we have tremendous athletes right now. So we're still kind of hoping that we have a shot at a national championship in the next couple of years. We've got some tremendous ball players, but the window's closing on us because some of our better guys are getting on the older side. So we're hoping to be able to pull that off. We are always recruiting. So this year we've got a couple of new players that are coming in. So we're excited. And that's one of the things that we're always really excited about is getting new people into the game. It's that opportunity to get new blood in. It's that freshness that new people bring, the excitement that they bring, and our team culture. Everyone gets excited for them to succeed. So we've got two wonderful new players that have signed on already, and they're both on the young side. And that's one of the big things that we're trying to do is get a little younger. So we're really excited about that. We are working with the Boston Red Sox and are hoping to play the first ever beep baseball. That's the name of our sport. So the first ever beep baseball game at Fenway Park. Hopefully that's going to happen in 2025. It was supposed to happen last year, but we got rained out. So those will be the kind of the highlights that we'll be looking for the next 2 years as we do it. One other thing is we are trying to help two other organizations get up and running. So we have hopes to go to Puerto Rico to help a team in Puerto Rico get started. Actually, more than one team. One of my current players resides in Puerto Rico and is from there originally. So he is trying to get it started, and we want to go down there and help support him to get it started there. And I've had multiple conversations with a group in Canada, and they have reached out and they've been looking for some guidance, and we're really hoping to help them get the sport started there. So we're looking to grow it, also looking to grow it somewhat near us. I know Canada's big, but the group that we're starting with is in Montreal. So we can have some more people within driving range that would help both our programs.
Well, that's fantastic. I wanted to circle back. You raised an interesting point, which is that some of your experienced athletes are kind of getting to the end of their competitive age cycle, let's say, in terms of participating. How do you incorporate or recruit or start creating a feeder system or pipeline of athletes for your program?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. Some of it's word of mouth. Some of it is just getting into the blind community and making people aware. Sometimes you get people and they're just not ready, but maybe they'll be ready a few years from now. Whether it's we're a team for adults, so whether it's they're 15 years old, or whether they just lost their vision and playing sports is not the top priority. They need to learn how to use a computer, learn how to use their phone, and maybe get a job before they can worry about it. So it's creating relationships. And look, if we have a year where we get one new player that really loves it, like that's a success for us. And this year we've got 2 coming in, and potentially 3. So that's something that's really important to us. I think right now 50% of my roster is north of 40. So we need to continue to get younger, for a variety of reasons, right? But that's kind of, we want to continue to have the next 5, 6, 7 years locked in by having those people there, so they can be there to support each other and know that they're going to have a team. Even sometimes some of our guys, they're still of the age, but they get married, they have kids, they need to take time off to raise their kids, they come back. So we've had the ability to have a community that people can count on because we've been here for 25 years.
Well, Rob, I want to congratulate you. I know it's no easy task to get something up and running in the first place, and then to give it the legs to last 25 years. So that's a great accomplishment. So congratulations. But before we let you go, we want to have a little bit of fun here and put you on the spot. So
Roy,
we're going to use
before we do that, can I just show the ball? To do my visual
sure.
aid?
Absolutely.
Right. So, in baseball, everyone plays, just so everyone knows, everyone wears a blindfold. So a lot of people don't understand that being blind doesn't mean lights out. Like, there's different variations of blind. Some people have no central vision. Some people have no peripheral vision. Some people, everything's a little blurry. But everyone's legally blind. So everyone wears a blindfold that puts them on a level playing field. And they play by sound. So our ball beeps. This is a weak one. So it has, can you hear that, Roy? All right, so that's the sound that it makes. And so, you got to turn around and track this ball with your ears when you're playing defense. And the rules are a little different. I won't get into all of the rules right now, but I wanted to at least show, that it's not just an adaptive sport, but we have to have adaptive equipment. And that's, that also can be expensive. These balls are $40 a ball. I go through 40 or 50 of them a season.
Wow, that's actually a lot less than I would have expected. I would have thought that they would be well over $100 with that technology built in.
Yeah, well, they're not that. The technology's old. You'll get a kick out of this. So the balls got created by the telephone company back in the mid 70s, and the parts that are in there are actually parts from payphones that got decommissioned. So I wouldn't say it's high technology. So, but yeah, we're really fortunate. The players are really fortunate that ball got created, because it's enabled a lot of people to continue to play a game they love.
That's fantastic. Well, I look forward to an opportunity to strap on the blindfold myself and give it a shot. I think that would be a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. But now we're going to wave our magic wand and use our sports philanthropy superpowers, and we're going to name Rob as commissioner of a sport. So tell us, given your choice, what sport would that be?
Well, how about we'll choose baseball. We'll stay in my my comfort zone. We'll choose baseball.
Okay, so you're going to go to baseball. You're going to walk over, kick Rob Manfred out of his office, and you're going to say, "I'm taking over now. This is Rob's show." So what's the first change that you're going to make?
Well, I'm going to make it for the fans, not for the business. So from a fan's perspective, I think one of the things they've done really well recently is improving the length of the games. And I've been, a season ticket holder for over 20 years, and sitting for watching those Red Sox Yankee games for 4.5 hours is just painful. So I love what they've done, and I think they need to cut further. I would love to see them shrink the time between innings. They don't need it. When you go to a game, you see the players don't even come out of the dugout. They're there sitting around doing whatever they need because they don't need that amount of time to warm up. All right, if we go back to the 80s, Roy, and I saw a game between the Red Sox and the Mets, the World Series in '86. They didn't even go to commercial break between innings sometimes in the 1980s. But we have to have
Right.
2.5 minutes between innings. I don't even watch if I'm sitting at home, I turn the channel. So what are these commercials really doing? I would say get it down to 30 seconds or so between innings. And then if you need the revenue, then you can do commercials during the game. Put something up in the corner, put something on the screen, show a stat and have it, sponsored by somebody.
Yeah.
Get creative with it and
Well,
continue to shrink the length of the games. That's what I would
well,
do.
they can pay a lot of bills with that, but I think you're right. That fan experience has been something that has really diminished over time. You've seen how much the expense is increased exponentially for taking a family to a game, just the cost of tickets. I read something in the last couple of days, and I can't remember which team. I'll try and just reduce the cost of their concessions. They knocked everything back down to $2
Well,
for everything at the games, the hot dogs, the drinks, the popcorn. And I think it makes such a difference to the fans to be able to come and enjoy something and not feel like if they go to the concession stand that, that they're spending, $40 for, a snack or more,
yeah,
right? It's
100%.
crazy. So
Yeah, and even just the pace of play these days is so much better than it was just 5-6 years ago, and they can continue to do more of it. And if the pace is quicker, more people are going to be interested. Keeps them more engaged. Less downtime keeps them more engaged. This is a difficult time with everyone, being distracted by their phones, right? So if you can keep them engaged, that would be it. I'm not saying that that's going to bring more revenue in. I'm just saying I took it from a fan's perspective.
well, and I think ultimately that is what drives the revenue. You've seen some of the issues that have come out recently about the drop in NBA viewership, for the league and for other things. So I think it's critical for the leagues to figure out how to keep fans engaged. If you keep pricing your average fan out, you're getting dollars from the corporate side. But again, those are not necessarily your hardcore true fans when a team's fortunes are not as good, right? The bandwagon elements of the sort of the corporate hospitality world is different than your hardcore fans like us that just love the sport. So
Absolutely.
thanks for sharing that idea and insight. I love it. Rob, again, I want to thank you for sharing your story and congratulations on what you've accomplished.
Thanks, Roy. Appreciate the opportunity to tell it.
And for all of our viewers and listeners, we appreciate you taking time to join us on the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. This is your host, Roy Kessel, signing off, reminding you to live generously. Thank you.